10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
Manchester
1,
United have
0.
reached the promised land.
Good morning, everybody. Unusual. I'm not normally here on a Saturday morning, but sometimes there's stories that come out and sometimes there's too many conversations to leave it until the next day. This is one of those days. Ralf Rangnick, we know he's a man who's had an extreme amount of honesty. And for me, that's been one of the reasons why I've appreciated him so much as Manchester United's manager. And in his embargoed press conference that comes out, remember the press conference comes out in two parts, the bit in the afternoon and the juicy part in the evening, came out last night. Rangnick speaking about the January transfer window that's just gone by and the fact that the club did not want to work with him when he said that Manchester United needed to sign an attacker. He said they needed to sign a striker, but we know by now that that is his interpretation of attacker. It doesn't necessarily mean a number 9. We're going to run through comments from Ralf Rangnick this morning. We're also going to be speaking about Paul Pogba and Manchester City. I'm actually going to do a separate video on this tomorrow. I think it's such an important talking point. We'll talk about that. There really are a lot of things we need to talk about every single day. And I keep saying this on these streams. It's just that the club is in such a transitional period. And I hate to use the word transition, but it's just true that there's so many different things going on right now that I want to keep having these conversations with you. Good morning to everybody in the comments. Who's down there? Carl Baldwin, good morning to you. Good morning to you this morning. Good morning to you this morning. Sort yourself out, Sam. It's a weekend. I operate differently the weekend. Anna, just nice to see you down there. Ashley, Paula, Josh, Fred, I can see you all down there in the comments as well. Andrew saying congrats on 250. That was wicked, man. Thank you very much, everybody, for who joined in yesterday. That was good fun being able to do that live on the stream together, even if I did have to waffle at the end for 30 minutes. But look, good morning to everybody. And look, as Midnight Dark Entertainment, from day one, from before Ralf Rangnick came in, I was praising his honesty. Spoke to Guido Schaefer a few times, and that's one of the big buzzwords that was reiterated about Ralf Rangnick's character, who he is. He's a very honest individual, and that's something that United have needed for a long, long time. Now, let's rewind to January. Obviously, I believe, let me see when this, I think the Greenwood situation happened around January time as well. Cavani was injured all the time. Martial obviously left to join Sevilla. Our options were extremely limited. We at that point, going into the second half of the season, we knew that we were relying on Cristiano Ronaldo. And Ralf Rangnick spoke about it in his press conference yesterday. And I want to run through those comments with you today. Like this. This is what Ralf said. He goes, there were a few options Manchester United were interested in January. Luis Diaz, who's now joined Liverpool. Julian Alvarez, who's going to be joining Man City. They've already agreed the deal for it. And Dusan Vlahovic, who, of course, left Fiorentina to join, yes, Juventus. All three of them. Now, the first thing that you might be saying to me here, which I think is semi-fair enough, but I would explain why I don't think it's completely true, is that, Sam, why would Manchester United spend 40, 60, 80 million on a signing in January when Ralf Rangnick was an interim manager? Why would they? Is that not part of the problem? The fact that we just keep giving money to all these managers that don't sort of bore part of a wider, bigger plan? I'd say yes, that's true. But at the same time, that's where I talk about continuity. That's why I think Ralf Rangnick to Ten Hag, had the players been playing Ralf Rangnick's system and done it properly, there would have been real continuity going to the end of the season. It's only because the players weren't able to do it. But do you think that Erik Ten Hag would have been pissed off if we signed Luis Diaz? Would have been an absolutely perfect signing for him. Julian Alvarez, unknown entity at this moment in time. Dusan Vlahovic, that one I think you could probably have more concerns about whether or not he would suit the system. But Luis Diaz, we've seen the lightning in the bottle that he is at Liverpool. Probably wouldn't have been anywhere near that at United because it would have been a very, very different system. But there were options available. And Ralf goes into it in a bit more detail. He said the answer was no. And that it was... Sorry, the answer was no. And that was it when he wanted to sign a striker in January. I spoke to the board and told them, shouldn't we at least speak and analyse and find if we can at least get a player on loan or a permanent deal? In the end, the answer was no. Now, I really want to know where you stand on this. I really, really know where you stand on this situation. Do you think that this is all fair enough? Do you think this isn't the latest example? Is this a sort of that you're worried about happening with Erik ten Hag in terms of transfers? You let me know what you think. There's a comment here from Scott. You're saying, "Gotta love Ralf. He says it how it is. He does it subtly, straight to the point, but also has a kind way of putting it without putting any noses out of joint. He's got an extremely intellectual way of presenting things. I've spoke about the malice that came with Mourinho and how different that is with Ralf Rangnick. And I think that's what's got so many fans on board with him that can empathise with the way he goes about things. Exactly right there, Scott. Ali watching 2 a.m. from the USA. Get to bed, my friend. Get to bed. And Dave, thank you very much, buddy, for the congratulations on 250k. It was wicked, man, to be able to do that yesterday. Don't worry, ladies and gents. I'm going to be working. I'm definitely going to do a nice big giveaway for 250k. I need to think about what it's going to be. I'll get that organised in the next week or two, but I won't forget about it. Don't you worry about that. Good morning to you, Collins. Let's see what else you're saying down here in the comments. Matthew saying we could have got Mazraoui, Ginter, Brozovic, Zakaria, Kamara, phenomenal fees in January. I spoke about it in quite a lot of detail about the idea that Dennis Zakaria, I said, look, he might not be the midfield solution that we need, but he'll be available for a relatively cheap amount of money. And then you can sign him on a contract and then probably be able to sell him in the summer for a decent profit. That would have made perfect sense to bolster a key weakness we had inside that squad. But when it comes to us signing an attacker, clearly what we've seen from then on towards the end of the season, that could have had a significant impact. Signing someone like, let's go back to it again. Signing somebody like Luis Diaz in January. At that time, it was linked. He was linked to, maybe somewhat tentatively to Manchester United, saying if he's going to leave Porto, it was going to be Liverpool or United. Obviously, Liverpool went all in, and look how much of an impact that's made on their season. He wouldn't have had as much of an impact on United, but who's to say that we wouldn't have had a bit of a top four, more of a top four chance? Or maybe no, we did have a top four chance. The players just didn't do it. It's odd. And Daniel, look, you're right. Really, really jealous of how well that signing has worked out for Liverpool. And of course, something that's happened at Manchester United since then, because there are two ways that you can look at this. And I'll go into Ralf Rangnick's comments in a bit more detail here before I talk about our scouts, because I think that's a big part of the problem. Let's go out there. Entertainment saying, Sam, this channel has the most quality content. Other channels are busy moaning. Hey, look, everybody can do things how they want, man. I don't agree with a lot of content that goes out on other channels. I think I appreciate quite a lot of what Stretford Paddock does, I'll be honest. But yeah, the Goldbridge and United stand, it's not my way of presenting things. That's each to their own, man. If you want entertainment first before information, you go over there. Ray, morning, Sam. You're a nice fan just like Ralf. We needed that striker that would have got us top four. I mean, it really could have got us that top four, wouldn't it? Jedi, you're probably not wrong here. I would have ruined Diaz. But it's that concept there that had we brought that signing in January, it might have kick-started something towards that second half of the season. I suppose in the same way that Bruno Fernandes did. When we got him in January, transformed our whole team in the second half of the season. I don't think we could have signed somebody that would have had as much of an impact as that. But there's no doubt that we could have bought somebody that did change things. And as I said, you reversed the conversation to what I said earlier. Yeah, Sam, but then you sign somebody who then doesn't suit the team come the summer. Is that not part of the problem? That's what the club should have, and could have had foresight at that point in January, working towards Erik ten Hag, because Diaz would have slotted straight into an Erik ten Hag system. We would have absolutely loved him. Not too sure about Dusan Vlahovic, and of course Julian Alvarez stayed on loan, didn't he, at River Plate until the end of the season. So maybe any of those. Luis Diaz is the obvious one here. He is the obvious one. But it is what it is. This is what else Ralf said in the situations. Ralf was asked if he could have signed those players. I don't know. But as I said, maybe we should have at least internally discussed it. Maybe I should have pushed even more. It would have been short notice, but 48 hours is 48 hours. It might have been at least worth to try and internally discuss it. It might be necessary and important. We didn't. It was not done. So the conversation didn't even happen. It wasn't even entertained. Is that because Manchester United simply at that point didn't know who our manager was going to be? come the end of the season, so they couldn't accurately say whether we should sign somebody or not. And as I said, like if you're going to, it was going to be Pochettino or Ten Hag, and I think a signing, it would have been very easy for United to make a signing in January that would have suited both of their styles, and that's why I talk about continuity. It's really weird. Elijah, people keep commenting about it, so I have to keep look. I'm not sorted, mate. I don't care. He is an entertainer. That is what he is. And fair play to him. He's carved his path and he's doing it. It's not my style. It's simple as that. There's nothing salty about it, man. Comment here from Ashley saying, Sam, missed your stream yesterday. Big thumbs up to the work. Thank you very much, buddy. Pedro, get to bed, my friend. Get to bed. Martial, I mean, people talk about Martial being lazy. I know that's he probably is a little bit lazy. And it hasn't exactly worked out at Seville. So I definitely want to see him leave. Sam, you're saying, morning, Sam, the board is a joke, but I do believe Arnold has seen it and is making changes, especially after seeing Diaz at Liverpool after being advised by Rangnick. This, of course, needs to be, hopefully, the last transfer window where we have these sorts of conversations about pointing towards other clubs, what they've done correctly, and what you wish Manchester United did properly, right? I hope this is the last time that we have these conversations. I hope that we go into the summer. After the summer, we come out and we go, wow, look at Man United getting the signings done early. He suits the system. He's a great signing. He's a real talent. I hope that after this summer, we can start looking at our own transfer policy and go, you know what? We've done things right. And maybe we semi-thought that in the summer, but at the core of it, all of us said we didn't sign a defensive midfielder. So, yeah, I hope this is the last transfer window where we're going to have real big frustrations. I don't think any transfer window is going to be perfect, ever, really. But we have to get better. We have to get better. Jibak, you're saying Glazers basically wrote off the season when we signed Rangnick as an interim. It's the old vicious cycle of spending after we drop into the Europa, the Glazeronomics. Going back, my old school video that I did a few years ago now, exposing the Glazers' strategy of spending big when we drop outside the top four and then reducing spending when we finish inside the top four, because ultimately that's their Premier League trophy. The ultimate aim for Manchester United fans at the end of the season is that Premier League trophy. For the Glazers, it's a top four consistent finish. That's why they loved the idea of the Super League so much, because they wouldn't have to worry about it. Constantly, they would be in the Champions League every year and they could never leave it. It was their dream situation. Luckily, the fans were able to stop that. Ruben watching from Tanzania. Look at that. How you doing, Ruben? And John watching from Botswana. Good morning to you as well, my friend. Figo, you have not convinced the Glazers why they should buy you a centre forward, because Rangnick has failed dismally. It's my I don't think Rangnick's a failure. Football wise, yes, he's a failure. I'm definitely pointing my finger more towards the players than I am Ralf Rangnick on that. I think he had his system and the players simply could not or did not want to adopt to it. I think they definitely looked at him as more of a, oh, come on, we've all had supply teachers at school. You don't give them as much respect as you do your teacher, because you know that this dude or dudette is not going to be there tomorrow. So why am I going to concentrate? I'm not exactly going to get in trouble. You're gone. And look, right, things have already changed. Manchester United's two leading scouts have both left the club. Ralf Rangnick here identifying 3 players. Remember when stories came out that Ralf was like, how do you not have a scouting report on Christopher Nkunku? Luis Diaz right there. If we're looking towards a Ten Hag and intense pressing system, Diaz should have been right towards the top of that list. Our scouts should have easily had reports on it. It shouldn't have been a massive rush that happened towards the end of the January transfer window. But the club decided to not back Ralf. Of course, we were linked with Amadou Haidara. Now, the Haidara situation was probably more because Ralf Rangnick was our manager. Of course it was. I don't think his name would have been anywhere near the list if it wasn't for Ralf. And now maybe that would have been a Ralf-type signing. But again, do you think that Amadou Haidara would be a midfielder that would look out of place inside a Ten Hag system? I don't think so. Because a lot of the characteristics of what Rangnick would want in a player are the characteristics that Ten Hag would want in a player. And that's why I always said that if we made the right signings in January, that it could have just continued through and then be an asset for the squad. And then they were talking about Let's go down and read, see if there's anything more inside this BBC article, because I think they said that it would come out of the summer budget. The decision has cost United financially, given they are now virtually certain to finish outside the top four. However, privately, club sources say the option was resisted because anything spent in January would have come out of the forthcoming summer transfer budget. At the time, no decision had been made over Solskjaer's full-time replacement, so it could not be certain whoever it was would agree with the new addition, which is exactly what I said there. And I think that's just poor foresight and poor planning. Of course, there was always... I don't think it was ever going to be an issue of us getting Erik ten Hag if we wanted Erik ten Hag, and we've seen that now. And maybe that's Captain hindsight coming through. But I think ten Hag was always leaving after the Overmars situation developed, and I think he was always going to join Manchester United. So I think we could have easily planned for that in January and made the right sort of signing for it. Darren, I see you there, buddy. Saying following United People CV for some time. Also watch other channels. There's never anything negative on this channel towards other channel folks. Enjoy it all, but this channel is tops. Thank you very much, mate. I don't particularly like reading out compliments. I think it's quite narcissistic to do so. But we hit 250k yesterday, so I do see all your compliments. It's just not my style to really shout about it from the rooftops. But don't worry, I do always see it. Pretty obvious they did. Now we know for true. Good morning to you, and good morning to you, Ant, who's just joining in. How dare you be late? Although aren't you away? I think you should go and show your missus some love. Look, this frustrates me, I suppose. This does frustrate me. I'm not too concerned that this is going to be the sign of something to come, right? I don't think this necessarily means that the Glazers are going to block a ton of Ten Hag signings. I don't think that's the case. I don't think they've got their fingers in that pie yet. But as I said, I hope this is the last example of that old United structure, of a structure where they didn't know what was coming in 6 months' time, a structure where the transfers weren't being led correctly and the chief scouts are both gone. This has to be the last, in my opinion, big mistake that we make. This summer, sign your central midfielder, sign your defensive midfielder, sign your versatile forward, and sign a centre-back. 3 or 4 key, obvious, you don't need glasses, as Rangnick said, obvious signings that United need to make. Now go out and make the right ones. This isn't a summer where we need to piss around, fuck about, and spend 3 months trying to sign one player, or 2 years trying to sign Jadon Sancho. It's about getting it right and doing it quickly and being efficient. It's about time United ended conversations like this. Oh, yeah, we should have done that. But Ralf Rangnick calling, as I said, Ralf Rangnick, the longer it goes on, the more Ralf is really sort of, he just keeps turning stones, man. He doesn't care who he pisses off, really. And maybe that's going to ostracize Ralf in terms of this consultancy role. But it's putting a magnifying glass everywhere that is needed at the club. And that's why I would never, ever say that Ralf Rangnick is a failure at Manchester United. He could have done lip service. He could have said nothing. He could have just taken it all on himself and not really blamed the players and not really pointing fingers towards the club. But it's the complete opposite of what he's done. And sure, you can say that's self-protection. That's the same sort of egotistical, narcissistic thing that Jose Mourinho did to protect his own legacy. And I'll be like, I'll be like, fair enough. But Rangnick is doing it in a different fashion. And I think it's all geared towards making Manchester United a better club when he leaves. Rather than when Mourinho leaves, it was all about protecting his own legacy. And that was it. He didn't care if he left a burning house behind him. That's the different thing. Now, one thing I hope is that this chant does not get any legs, because he was asked about it in his pre-match press conference ahead of Ajax's game this weekend. Don't, please, that chant is horrendous. Jibak, yes, sure, so many managers out there wouldn't want Vlahovic or a 5 million Zakaria. We could have easily signed the manager who hates a clinical striker. I think the Vlahovic one is a little bit different. Vlahovic would have been a proper 75, 80, 90 million pound striker to come into the squad. That's a huge signing. It's like a marquee level signing. Luis Diaz, I don't think it would have been by comparison. It would have been about the price that Liverpool paid, 40 to 50 million. They're the types of signings that can change seasons. Sort of price we paid for Bruno Fernandes as well. I didn't know that we had any lady players in the first team squad, but I know what you mean about lady players. Becca saying Ralf has been the only manager that has been honest with the problems we've had. Now, Jose Mourinho was honest, but there's a way of going about things. There's a way of approaching it that might lead to a positive change. And in my opinion, the way that Mourinho approached it, the way that Mourinho carried himself, just led to more infighting and more arguments and ultimately no real change. That's what I think. Darry saying, what are your thoughts on Ralph's response to Jesse? I think he had a really great response. I'm going to be speaking about that next. So talking points, as I said, this is why I did an extra live stream this morning. I normally would be able to let this sort of sit and then come on Monday morning and we address all the problems. But it's too many talking points here today for me to not come live and wait until Monday, because there's going to be more come Monday. Next, we're going to be speaking about Paul Pogba and Manchester City. Then we're speaking about something that's really pissed me off, if I'm being completely honest. Todd Bowley's purchase of Chelsea has gone through. It's been ratified now needs to be confirmed by the Premier League. And they've introduced some anti-Glazer sanctions and blockers that really annoyed me. Going to speak about that. Going to be speaking about Ralf Rangnick's response to Jesse Lingard, about Ronaldo and Ten Hag. What else we got? Brighton team news. There's lots and lots and lots to talk about. There really are. That's why I've come live this morning. Let's go down here. Fletcher and Murto aren't going anywhere, unfortunately. I personally don't know why you would say that as unfortunately, Matthew. John Murto, as far as we can see, has been doing a fantastic job. And I know, again, it's fashionable to think that Fletcher's shit, but good things are happening behind the scenes right now under their watch, or at least under John Murto's watch. Bit confused about Darren Fletcher's role. We've spoken about that in quite a lot of detail here on United People's TV. He needs to get his role clarified. Not just a technical director. I don't even think he knows what he's doing. Ray, nice to see you joining as a member, man. Is that the first time? I'm not sure whether it's the first time or not. Big up to you for supporting the channel, man. What Glazer? Let's go down here. Connor Cooper, how you doing, buddy? I haven't seen your name before. Rangnick's the best thing to happen to our club since Fergie. Wow. Very intelligent, knows what the problems are. Piss poor, overrated players, which is called out like Martial on the ball, blocking managers doing their jobs. We need him upstairs for as long as possible. I absolutely stand by the fact that I hope he's part of this rebuild that we're doing. Even if it's only 6 days a month, even if it's only simply Ralf Rangnick at the end of a phone call, I still want his voice in and around the changes that are happening, because I think he's already steered quite a lot of changes. Do I think this would have happened if Ralf Rangnick wasn't calling all of this out? I'm unsure, given that Lawler were both at the club for, 30 years combined, roughly? Both of them have gone. So many changes have happened since Ralf Rangnick came in that I will refuse to call him a failure at Manchester United. And I think it's really short-sighted of people to do that. And I've always got one eye on I'm trying to, as a fan, have one eye on the future. I don't think the club has had that for a long time, have they? The club has always been working in like 6 to 12 month cycles, whereas in reality, we should always be working towards a 3 to 5 year cycle. That's what happens in football. Football is cyclical. It always happens. Mats, good morning from Norway. How you doing, buddy? Bailey, not that Bailey. Saying, I honestly don't even rate Vlahovic. So glad we didn't waste money on him. I mean, questionable whether it would have been a waste of money, but yeah, I think the Vlahovic situation would have been way too much for a January type signing, given that we didn't have a manager coming up. That one I would agree with. But the Luis Diaz situation, you can look at and just kind of scratch in your head. And maybe we wouldn't have had a chance of signing him anyway. But I think we definitely would have if we went in for him. If the Glazers push Ralf away, I hope they are run out of Manchester. I mean, you're not wrong there, my friend. Chris, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you there. If we have proper scouting reports, identifying proper United-type players, any manager coming in can always make it work. Refusing to sign players because they might not fit is a lousy excuse to not spend. It's a lousy excuse to cover up poor scouting. That's what it is. Clearly, our scouting has been absolutely abysmal for a long time. The only young players that we've signed, Facundo Pellistri, Amad Diallo. If you go a little bit younger, our signings have been fantastic. Our signings between the ages of 14 to 16, brilliant. We really have identified a lot of really top-level young talents who have come into the club and are now going to be bursting through, hopefully, into the first team. That I won't deny. But I don't know how that's not transferred into the senior team. Signing players between the ages of probably 19 to 24, roughly, who really are going to be the next stars. We've become so poor at making those signings. And Luis Diaz is an absolutely perfect example of that. And look, Christopher Nkunku, you don't really need to be... I mean, even Ed Woodward could probably do a scouting report on Christopher Nkunku now because of how good he's been. But had we identified him the year before and said, look, we should watch him this season, they would have already had the scouting report. And it's about being proactive instead of being reactive as a football club at every single level. Manchester United, reactive FC for the last few years. And this is just another example of it. The fact that we get down to the last few days in the transfer window in January and we're left with only Ronaldo as our only striker because Cavani's injured, because Greenwood's now suspended, because we've loaned out Martial and Rashford couldn't hit a barn door. We've only got 37-year-old Ronaldo between now and the end of the season. It's almost like we're going to struggle to score goals. And that's what we did. Remember those 3 games? I always point towards those 3 games as a turning point for our season. Middlesbrough, Burnley, and I think it was Southampton. 72 shots we had on target, 3 goals. Jeez. Wow. Let me go down here and read a few of your comments out here before I move on. And we're going to be talking about Paul Pogba and Manchester City. All right. We bought loads of kids before the rule changes due to Brexit. I don't know whether that's true or not. Okay. When are we appointing the vacant positions, particularly the scouting department? The sooner the better. Good morning to you, Leela. Ray, you're saying we need to get kids into this first team. We do. But back to what Leela was saying, we should be getting an update on this in the next 2 weeks. And I know I kind of said I said that last week a little bit. It feels a little bit delayed, but maybe it's because the board's getting it right. Of course, we want Paul Mitchell, right? That's who we want. Or somebody of Paul Mitchell's ilk. Somebody who can come in and be our transfer guru, be the genie. We need somebody to go out there and identify and find some magic. Hey, nice, I like that. But it's true. Whether it's Paul Mitchell, whether it's somebody else, I don't believe Manchester United's current structure, although it's definitely improved compared to what it was a couple of months ago, we definitely need a smarter, experienced voice inside our structure for transfers. Stuart, joining us a member, let me know where you're watching from, buddy. I'll give you a shout out. Johan, you saying, I agree on your opinions, but the Glazers are very, very greedy to buy players. We need to find a way of removing these people. Well, yeah, you're preaching to the choir there. The Glazers letting our scouts down. Now that's where another problem is. Hey, look, it's just problems everywhere, man. And Sar watching from Dubai, how you doing, buddy? And Jonathan saying scouts and the clubs missed out on Firmino, Silva, Laporte, Diaz, Cancelo, Havertz, Diaz, and wow. I mean, our scouts really have been abysmal. And I'll be completely honest. I'm absolutely surprised that this didn't happen earlier. But I suppose that's the culture of acceptance. The old boys club. They've been here for years and years. You can't get rid of them. Yes, you fucking can. They're crap. No offense to them, but they've been crap. There's not been... I've said this quite a few times. There's not been many signings that United have made over the last 10 years where another club has looked at us and gone, I'm jealous of that signing. I wish that our club had made that signing. Bruno Fernandes is the obvious one that stands out. And you can talk about Paul Pogba. That's Pogba coming back to United. You can talk about others. Maybe people were jealous of Di Maria. And then a couple of months later, they were like, well, maybe not. But rarely have we signed, exactly, players like that. Players like Cancelo or Diaz. Or, I mean, let's be honest. City spent so much money trying to place company. They didn't exactly get their scouting department spot on, did they? They eventually found Ruben Diaz. But they went through a lot of shit beforehand. But look, I hope that this, as I said, that before we move on to the Pogba situation, I hope this is the last time that we come out of a transfer window with like pure and utter frustration. I hope that this summer we learn from our mistakes. We sign players, the right players. We sign young, upcoming players who are already stars or on the verge of being a star that blossom into global stars. They're the players that are going to take us forward. Not spending 100 million on one player. That's what I think anyway. We're speaking about signings, speaking about transfers, speaking about exits. This is definitely a conversation we're having today, and I'm doing a separate video on this tomorrow where I'll go into it a bit more depth, in my opinion on it. What do you think about this story? This is coming from the BBC, by the way. This is not made up. This is not guff. Paul Pogba. Manchester City could make a move to sign him from Manchester United. Man City could make a move for Pogba when his contract runs out this summer. Guardiola is looking for central midfield reinforcements, given Fernandinho plans to leave the club. City have already ruled themselves out of making an offer for Declan Rice, but the lack of a transfer fee makes Paul Pogba more attractive. What's your initial take and your initial reaction to this? Because on the surface, I'm sure it's going to piss off a lot of United fans. The idea that Paul Pogba will just shift across the City on a free transfer, get a huge signing on bonus and play for our rivals. It's the biggest fuck you could ever see. And when you see, this is Sam Lee, who writes for The Athletic. He's saying, I heard earlier today that Pogba is looking at a new house in Manchester. I thought, that's weird. He's surely not staying at United. Now I'm thinking, that's weird. Why would he need to move house to join Man City? The Athletic, BBC, they're both talking about it. So I think we really need to have this discussion. First and foremost, the idea that Paul Pogba can come in and be a replacement for Fernandinho, that makes me laugh so much. I mean, he's not a Fernandinho type signing. But the idea that Pogba might follow Tevez across to Man City, would it be a Tevez level of anger for you? Would it be different? Would it be worse? You let me know what you think in the comments. I'm going to read through a few of them now. Ashley, you're saying, I do not care where he goes. I just want him gone. Just say farewell. Tim says, and let him go and move on. We have lost players that have done more for us than to City. I mean, Tevez did a lot for City. Ray, you're saying, I don't really care about Pogba now. Let's go down here. Paulie is saying, goodbye, Pogba. If he plays out of his skin for City, just shows he was here for the wages. Fuck him. What other comments here? Josh, there was a comment there from you. Where's it gone? Too many comments coming in. Jedi, sorry, Josh, lost comment. I couldn't care less. He will cause trouble wherever he goes. I don't necessarily think he would go to City and be a troublemaker, in my opinion. Sam, you're saying let them have him. Collins, you're saying he can go. Should pray he gets game time there. Guardiola can bench anybody. Look, I'm going down here and I'm reading a lot of your comments. I'm seeing a lot of what you're saying. And the majority of you, I suppose, are just, you're kind of done and dusted with the Pogba situation, right? It's a bit like me. I've said this so many times, man. I'm just done with the Paul Pogba circus. If I'm being completely honest, I'd rather he just went out of the Premier League and I didn't have to have a conversation about Paul Pogba again. Because if he does go Man City, we technically don't get rid of the Paul Pogba circus. It will just indirectly affect us. It will just be constant shade going on all season. Whenever he scores a goal for City, it will just be like United furious. The circus will come in a different form. I would much rather he left. And if he had any sort of, if he gave a shit about United in any way, shape or form, remember the club that signed him as a young kid from Le Havre, the club where he won the FA Youth Cup before eventually leaving, before then coming back to and saying that he loved the club. If he gave a fuck, he wouldn't entertain the idea at all. But let's be honest, it's not as if he's protecting a legacy at Manchester United. What is his legacy at Manchester United? Just a huge what if. Jedi is going down here and saying Pogba won't get a start at City, but Simon, you're saying Pogba would thrive in a City system. I think Pogba would absolutely thrive in a City system. Pogba definitely plays better when he's got better players around him. City, let's be honest, are one of the best teams in Europe. I've no doubt that Pogba would be a good signing for City. He wouldn't be a Fernandinho type signing, but there's no doubt that Pogba would be a good player for City. But I'd like to think that he's got some sort. He doesn't know. He won't. I would love to think that he would turn down that move out of respect for United, but when has he ever been respectful of Manchester United? It's always been about Paul Pogba and what Paul Pogba wants, in the same way that toward the end of it, it's all been about Jesse Lingard and what Jesse Lingard wants. It hurts, but I tell you what, I don't know if you remember it. I do. I remember Rooney and City. I remember those rumours. And I remember Rooney and Chelsea. And I remember like how emotionally attached I was to the fact that I didn't want both of those to happen. It would have been the biggest gut punch if Rooney went to City or Chelsea. It would have hurt a lot. I wouldn't have that same sort of emotional reaction if Pogba went to City. It would just be the last fuck you from Paul Pogba. And I'll be like, you know what? We were right not to. Well, we gave him the fucking contract offer. He didn't even sign it. It's just, I hope he doesn't go to City. I personally think with the Tevez situation, man, so many United fans wanted Tevez to stay at United. And ultimately, Fergie gave him the offer right towards the end. We delayed and we delayed and we delayed and we delayed and we gave him the offer towards the end. But by that point, he'd be like, well, I've gone. Screw you. And he went to City and it was acrimonious. I remember those derbies when Tevez was there, when we played them in like League Cup semi-final doubles. And then Rooney, remember that goal that Rooney got? And then Tevez bagging in penalties. That was when they had Balotelli back in those days. It was far worse with Rooney and City and Chelsea. I'd probably argue it was more acrimonious. It was angry. When Tevez went to City, that was still when City were noisy neighbours. Tevez went and helped City get towards the club they are now, but they are the club they are now. I wouldn't be particularly angry at Pogba going City. I'd just be a bit like a disappointed dad. Be like, yeah, I'd just be disappointed more than anything about it. I wouldn't fume. I wouldn't lose my shit. I'd just rather he pissed off, left the Premier League, and we didn't have to have a circus around him. Because as I said, if he goes to City, the circus takes on a different form, but it will still be there for sure. I mean, I don't think I do not love Tevez. No, thank you. That's not the fucking words I would use for Carlos Tevez. I get the point about Schaefer and City, but at the same time, we have to focus on us, not what other teams are doing. Yeah, but of course, we've got no doubt whatsoever. It's just going to be another side story to next season, isn't it? A side story I'd rather we didn't have, but a side story we absolutely would have, because every single time, if Pogba joins City, every single time he puts in a decent performance, United will probably be in the headline. United will probably be in the first paragraph about what could have been. And it will be constant comparisons every single week about how he was at United and how he's flourishing at City under Guardiola. And my God, United wasted this player. Done. But as Paul has said, I feel like my parents with me at school. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. That was always the one that hurt you when you was a kid. It was like, oh, can't you just be angry? It's easy when you're angry. If you're disappointed, then I really feel like I let you down. But I was a horrible kid at school. But it all works out in the end. Gary saying, let him go to City and spread his poison there. Most overrated player I've seen in 49 years at United. I think people go a little bit too harsh on that with Paul Pogba. But I understand that if there's a real vociferous anger towards him, I'd rather just end it. As I said, I'd rather end it. Let's move on. And Pogba doesn't go City, but he might do. But as I said, I'm going to have a short video, because as so many of you appreciate the long videos and the interactive videos, but not everybody's got 30, 40 minutes to talk. That's why I always do my short videos as well at the same time, so that everybody's got something to watch on United People's TV. I'm going to do a video that will go out tomorrow morning. We need to talk about Paul Pogba and Manchester City. So make sure you check that one out tomorrow. And look, if you are new here, because I don't normally go live at this time, welcome to United People's TV. Would you please consider dropping a like on the video? It really does help. Just take 2 seconds now. Go down there and subscribe to United People's TV if you're new on Facebook or on YouTube. I'd love to have you as part of the community, which has just hit 250k, which is wicked, right? Let's go on. Let's get 250 more. No, I apologize. Yeah, no, my camera is on a tilt. Don't worry about that. Yeah, it's a bit annoying, but I can see it. I think I need to get a new stand, maybe. We loved it when RVP did the same to Arsenal. It's true, of course, but that similar situation, different situation, I suppose, but similar sort of anger. It wouldn't be anywhere near that level of anger. And I swear to God, if Pogba comes back, well, I'm not giving him a fucking guard of honor. Look, this has really annoyed me from yesterday. Let me see if I can quickly do this. I probably shouldn't do this while we're live. I reckon that'll be slightly better. There we go. Apologize about that. Let's move on. This really, really annoyed me when this came out yesterday from Sky. Chelsea FC sale. A dividend ban and debt limits feature in anti-Glazer takeover deal. Let's go through and read it. The new owners of Chelsea would be prevented from paying dividends or taking management fees for a decade under a package of measures designed to avoid the controversies which have dogged Manchester United since the Glazers takeover in 2005. Sky News can exclusively reveal that a consortium majority funded by private equity firm Clearlake Capital and blah, 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 blah. Sources close to the bid, blah, blah, blah. There we go. Sources close to the bid said on Friday that the Clearlake Bowley Group was in advanced negotiations with Chelsea advisors about measures that would include barring them from paying dividends or management fees until 2032, prohibiting the sale of any shares in the club for 10 years, and agreeing to strict limits on the level of debt that they take on. Isn't it just wonderful news that there's going to be anti-Glazer policies put in to protect other clubs? If only you'd listened to United fans back in 2005 when we said that this would happen. We argued that this would happen. We protested that this would happen. But instead, they were absolutely happy to let it go until it goes to Chelsea. And then they need to stop it. Now, I suppose if you're looking at a glass half full, you can be like, Sam, it's a good thing. It's exposing more of the Glazers and what they've done, and it puts more spotlight onto it. You can call it that if you want. But the takeover here was confirmed yesterday. Chelsea takeover, the contract has been signed by the group. 4.25 billion is going to be the price that is paid for it. And you know full well what I think about what I want to see happening.
Some would argue you should be trying to buy the club that you grew up supporting.
Yes, I mean, I can understand that, but Manchester United's not for sale.
Jim Ratcliffe there saying Manchester United is not for sale. I've done a video on it. We've already had a whole discussion about it. I won't get into it again today. Jim, you come to the club with a 4.25 billion offer, you're going to get listened to. You're not just going to get pushed out the door. Red, how you doing, Red? Said, I'd rather City take Pogba than United paying him any more wages. It will make up for the wages we wasted on Alexis Sanchez that we stole from City. I mean, I'd much rather he didn't go City. I'd much rather Pogba just left the Premier League. Let's move on. That would just be easier. Luke Smith down here, a happy Chelsea fan. I'm sure you're happy. But what Glazers have done to United wouldn't work. It wouldn't be allowed at any other club. It's quite literally illegal now, I believe, to buy a club on a leverage deal. If you don't have the money to buy a club, that's why all these consortiums exist. If you don't have the funds to buy a club, you are not allowed to buy the club. Whereas the Glazers didn't have enough money, and they leveraged their own assets in the USA and said, look, if we default on it, you can just take our club over here. And that's why they were allowed the loan from the bank. That's why they were allowed it from the Premier League. Oh man, it's something that's been cruel for a long, long time. The fact that we've just been burdened with this debt, which I believe the debt that we have on the club is either more than the original debt, or it's there or thereabouts. Despite over $1 billion being paid, it's like you know, if you have a mortgage, you can pay your mortgage off, and you can pay an extra percentage on top of it every month, so your mortgage eventually reduces, or you can just do interest-only mortgage repayments, which is the worst idea you can do for in the long term. Maybe there might be a year or two where it works out for you, but if you just pay interest only on your mortgage is never going to go down. It's exactly what's happened with the Glazers and the debt that they've put onto Manchester United. Kieran, Burnley, were they bought on a leverage? Well, I thought it was illegal. Let's have a look here. Oh, look, there's no doubt that Manchester United are worth more than 4.25 billion. We're definitely, but that 1 billion on Chelsea includes the fact that will cost $1 billion to improve everything and completely regenerate and redevelop Stamford Bridge. So 4.25 billion isn't necessarily just the price of the club. It's the club plus redevelopments. That's like signing the Glazers, selling Manchester United, but also included in that price is all the money that's going to get paid to redevelop all of Old Trafford, which would add another $1 billion on. Luke Smith saying 1.8 billion being wiped off at Chelsea in terms of debt, of course. I mean, Abramovich, I still wish that he did that. I still wish that he went, knocked on the door and said, you know what, lads, I've had a bit of a change of heart. I want my 1.8 billion back. Thank you very much. Vipe saying score predictions for the game today. We're going to head into the team news in a couple of minutes, and then we'll get a score prediction. Obviously playing Brighton tonight. I was going to talk about Ten Hag and Ronaldo. I don't really think I fancy talking about that now. I think this is a more prevalent talking point. Yesterday, Ralf Rangnick was asked about the Jesse Lingard situation. He said, on the game day against Chelsea, he contacted me and asked me to release him from the game and the training session. And Gary Neville has said this on Twitter. He said, I don't get the Lingard fuss at all. I saw far better players than him not get the perfect send-off. He wants to leave. He wanted a free transfer and he got it. Move on. And yeah, I retweeted that yesterday and I absolutely stand by it. I've said that all along. Jesse Lingard has wanted a free transfer away from Manchester United so he can get his signing on bonus and that he can get the pick of the clubs. He's wanted that for a long time and he's getting that. So for him to have the audacity, I would call it audacity at this point, to say, you know what, even though I'm getting the exit that I want, it's not the way I want it to be. So I'm going to moan about it. It's like, fuck me. Like obviously, Van Persie is the best example of a player that really didn't get the send-off that he deserved. Vidic and Ferdinand sort of were crept out the back door, even Patrice Evra. And Jesse Lingard's moaning about it? Man, you're just not doing yourself any favours. I thought you had a PR team. I thought you knew how this worked. Like, read the room. Seriously, read the room. Jesse Lingard could have left United in January on a permanent deal to Newcastle, but rejected it because he didn't want it. He only wanted a loan move, and United then priced Lingard out of that loan move because we wanted a lot of money because Newcastle had a crap ton of money. That didn't work out. I'm so done with Jesse, man. So done with Jesse. It's weird. It's really odd and really strange how entitled people are, eh? How entitled these players are, saying, oh, no, it's not everything's not been done on my terms. I want my exit to be like this. I want us to have a party here. I want us to do it after this game. You take what you are given by the football club and you say thank you very much. Unfortunately for Jesse, it's just going to be just a push out the back door now. Very, very strange. Very, very odd. Very, very strange. Sushant, how you doing there, buddy? Ralf is the most honest manager we have had. Exactly what was needed to expose these players, for sure. Spot on Sam says, Tom, I feel he's been influenced by Pogba and Ronaldo. I think I've spoke about this before. I think Jesse Lingard, there are some parallels to the Ravel Morrison situation. Ravel Morrison never had the right advice in his ears. He was always surrounded by, unfortunately, the wrong people. And I think people around Lingard are helping this manifestation that he is one of the best players in England. How dare he be treated like this? How dare you, Manchester United? I think that's the mindset that's sort of taken over in Jesse Lingard's head. Just go and be an average player at Newcastle, Jesse. Let's just end this now, man. Which is a real shame. Massive shame. I wish a player that had been at the club for 20 years that came through our academy could get a better send-off. But he's just not covering himself in any glory here. This Lingard rubbish is what we need to bin under Ten Hag. You fight for your place. Absolutely. There's so many things that need to be binned under Ten Hag. And this sense of self-importance is such a huge one. Told you that. It's that culture of entitlement that's taken over at Manchester United. That these players all think that the club owes them something. They all think that the club owes them something. Come on, man. You've got that so the wrong way round. You owe everything to this club. You're a Manchester United player. You should consider yourself lucky. Solskjaer might have spoken cliches, but he at least understood that. Just he wasn't able to turn that into what we wanted. But look, for me, I think I might have said this before, but that really is now. That is the last time I'm going to mention Jesse Lingard. Let's move on, as Himalayan says, to talk about the game today. What's your predictions for the game today? We're playing Brighton at 5:30. Let's run through the team news as a final pointer here on our live stream today. This is what Ralf Rangnick said. He said Harry Maguire is back in training. Trained the whole week since the day after, or the second day after the Brentford game. He resumed training, so he is available. Edinson Cavani is training. Obviously, he came in as a sub. Rashford will be missing. He's got bronchitis with high temperatures. We have a question mark about Erik Bailly. What team do you expect to see today? Let's see if we can pull this up here. Let's put up the tactics board. I think this was the team I said I expected to see. Now, Rashford's obviously not going to play because Rashford's sick. So who do you think will start on the wings? You let me know in the comments below. Who do you think will start here instead of Marcus Rashford? And you get your predictions in the comments. Let me go down here and see what you're thinking. Carl, you're going 2-0 United. Jonathan, you're going for 2-2. Ashley, you're going 3-0. Anaj, you're going for 2-0 as well. 3-0 says Jeff with a Ronnie brace. Porter, you're going for a 2-1. Garnacho says Jeff, I don't believe we'll see Garnacho. I don't think we'll see Garnacho in this game because, of course, the under-18s play in the Youth Cup final on Wednesday in front of over 50,000 people at Old Trafford. That's the most important game for Garnacho. I would actually be semi-annoyed. Genuinely, I'll be semi-annoyed to see Garnacho start this game. Because if he gets injured and misses that, it's going to be a regret that never leaves him. That's the more important thing. Can someone pull Maguire's hamstring during the warm-up, please? Poor bloke. Poor bloody bloke. I do have a little bit of sympathy for Maguire, but I suppose I've been screaming about it, haven't I? So I can't really say too much. Bruno on the left wing again. Mata in at number 10. I mean, it really did work against Brentford, didn't it? So maybe that's exactly what will happen. Maybe you'll see the exact same thing there. Because he was class. He was class. I think maybe against Brighton, it will probably work. I'll tell you what, though. Definitely put a bet on him to score. There's no way that Ronaldo's not scoring in this game. Sean, you think 3-2. Ozzy, you're going 4-1. Aaron, 2-1. Vipe, 2-1. Imola, 4-0. 2-1, 3-1. Lots. Oh, is it someone's birthday down here? Is it Becca? Is your birthday? I think I just saw that. If it is, happy birthday, Becca. No Matic, says Mats. Nah, put Fred back in. Don't know. We'll see. Maybe there won't be any differences to the team that played against Brentford. Maybe you're just going to see that. Maybe you'll see exactly that. Suppose given it was 3-1, given it was a game that United really controlled, maybe it's not a game there's going to be too much change from. And I'll tell you what, I'm actually backing United. I think it'll be a good game tonight. I don't know why. My spidey senses are tingling. I think it'll be a good game. You know, it's quite disappointing, though. I had a ticket. For the away end. Organised it all, but there's something that's come up today. Something family related, which is a shame. So I can't go to the game, which sucks. But big up to everybody who's going down there and enjoy that. I think it'll be a cracking game. Andy, you're saying, where's Sancho? Sancho's got tonsillitis and he won't be fit. Probably won't play again between the end of the season. I suppose, yeah, if we're looking at how we played against Brentford, why would you change that, Sam? Because let's be honest, it was one of the best games we played in a long, long time. I don't personally think Mata will start again. Might be wrong. Let's see. But I'm predicting, I don't know. I think it'll be a really good game tonight. I don't know why, but just my spidey senses are tingling. I think it's going to be 3-1, 4-1 United. Famous last words. I don't think Harry Maguire should come in. No offense to Harry Maguire, or maybe offense to Harry Maguire. I just don't think he should come in. Varane Lindelof, it works for me. I like it. So I think 4-1. But let's see, eh? We're playing at 5:30 tonight, and you know that I'll be here after the game with my match reaction. Anaj, you're saying we might see a formation change since two of our forwards are not available. I don't think we'll see a formation change. I don't think we'll see Garnacho start. I also don't think we'll see Fred, what are you doing here? Coming in with a 2-1 Brighton. If it's 2-1 Brighton now, Fred, I'm completely blaming you. But look, thank you very much for joining. As I said, it's unusual for me to do a Saturday stream. I normally only Monday to Friday, but there was just too many talking points from Ralf and about Pogba to City. I will do another video going out tomorrow morning, early doors, on Pogba to City in a bit more detail, a shorter one, because people do appreciate the short videos. But join me after the game tonight, 5:30 on a Saturday evening. Technically a good kickoff. I don't really think it's that good a kickoff, but I suppose if you're going out after, it'd be good fun, especially anybody going out in Brighton after that. That'll be a cracking night out. But thank you very much for joining in, everybody. I'll see you later on. Hopefully after a win, eh? It'll be nice.